Alright, so we got the 214 spoilers, and this chapter is just as hype and exciting as the previous one, but before I get into it, let me just quickly go over what had happened in the previous chapter. So after it was revealed that Tsumiki was actually the vessel for the reincarnated sorcerer Yorozu, Sukuna said "Enchain," and finally activated the binding vow that he had made with Yuji. And once he took Yuji over, he seemingly transferred himself into his pinky, broke it off, then force-fed it to Megumi and took him over. Then he punched Yuji through the stomach and sent him flying through a building. Then at the end of the chapter, his head grew 3 times its size as he was about to eat Angel and Hana. And that brings us to the beginning of this chapter, where it continues where the previous left off, and Sukuna easily bites Hana's arm off. So yeah, this is crazy. So he's not eating her whole, like how I at least expected that he was gonna try, but yeah, he's biting her arm off. And I think this might continue to be a parallel to Rika, possibly. I talked about this before, but a lot of us have been speculating that Sukuna's inherent base curse technique might be the ability to take other curse techniques or something like that. Something similar to what a Kotsu has. And we thought in order for him to do that, maybe he has to eat the person or consume their blood or their flesh or something like that, because that's also what Ryu speculates about how Okotsu and Rika's ability works. He thought that maybe Rika needed to consume the blood or the flesh or something of a sorcerer to gain their curse technique, because we see Rika eat Takako's arm, similar to how Sukuna is eating Hana's arm here. So either that could be a direct parallel, or it just is a coincidence and there's nothing really going on here other than him just eating her arm. But anyway, it could mean that Sukuna has Angel's curse technique right now, if it was embedded into Hana, of course. But anyway, going further, Sukuna throws Hana away, and Yuji watches it all happening from the ground. He blankly stares at the top, helpless. P.S. Sukuna's punched in and phased my boy. So yeah, what we saw happen to Yuji in the previous chapter pretty much doesn't matter. He got up like nothing happened. I mean, yeah, his clothes are damaged, and he does have a hole in the back of his jacket and in the front because, Sukuna punched through him, but he doesn't have a wound or anything. So he definitely underwent reverse curse technique here, and seemingly instantly, I guess, and subconsciously, because consciously, Yuji doesn't know reverse curse technique yet. Or at least we, the audience, are under that assumption. So something has happened here, and I guess Sukuna leaving Yuji, or Yuji dying or coming close to death, was the catalyst, which is, yes, the cliche, or one of the cliche shonen power-up things, but I'll get more into it because it's possibly more than just that. I mean, on the surface, it is, for this chapter at least. He is getting, the shonen reincarnation or resurrection power up or power unlock. But going further, Yuji reaches to the top of the building and Sukuna disgustingly says, "You were still here? Ha." And then Yuji jumps off to face Sukuna. P.S. The building's top crumbled after Yuji jumped off. Insane raw power. Yuji versus Sukuna battle begins, and Yuji screams, "Sukuna!" Sukuna is puzzled. He thinks, what's this? What is this power? And the next moment, there's a huge boulder in front of Sukuna's face, which was kicked off by Yuji. Yuji attacks once again, but Sukuna starts to counter. Sukuna comments, "Kenjaku, you truly do the creepiest things." And Yuji screams at Sukuna, saying, "You guys are why I can't live normally." P.S. Sukuna knows Yuji is Kenjaku's son. So yeah, this is what I was talking about. So currently Yuji is extremely powerful. Whatever just happened to him has unlocked what we assume the base of his potential is. I mean, I don't think this is the peak of his power, of course, but this is the beginning of it. Because he's so powerful that he's able to I don't know, I guess challenge Sukuna at least. And as it says here, the building is crumbling after he's jumping off of it. All Might or some character like that would do. So I think Yuji is at least special grade power right now, possibly. And he has I don't know, maybe subconscious reverse curse technique. And it's where did this come come from. And I think it goes into what Sukuna is saying here about Kenjaku. You truly do the creepiest things. Like, maybe Kenjaku put this contingency into Yuji. You know, whatever he was doing to make him with his jujitsu, and we know that, you know, Kenjaku had to become Kaori to give birth to Yuji, and Sukuna, of course, knows that. And speaking of that, real quick, it's like, I've been talking about this for months now, but of course, Sukuna was made privy to this plan of Kenjaku's beforehand, like back in the Heian era, along with a lot of the other sorcerers that he made deals with. And I assume that all of this has felt like, I don't know, maybe like a couple months to Sukuna, because, like, I don't know, back in the Heian era, he was made into, you know, the cursed object with his fingers, and then he was reincarnated, and then everything that's happened in Jujutsu Kaisen so far. So it's like, you know, this has only felt like a couple months to Sukuna, not that long, as to where with Kenjaku, he's been living this for like the last 1,000 years, setting this up. But speaking of that, maybe he put this contingency into Yuji as to where, like, when Sukuna finally separates from him, it somehow activates like the full power, the full potential of Yuji. And it's either that, or when Yuji is pushed close to death or dies, with the combination of Sukuna being separated from him, which would explain why it didn't happen originally, you know, back in season 1, when Yuji was originally quote-unquote killed by Sukuna. But either way, it seems like Kenjaku has something to do with this, like bringing out the full power of Yuji. And maybe this is like another experiment of his, because, you know, Kenjaku is like the mad scientist here, so this is totally something he would do. Like, make this vessel for Sukuna and then possibly have Sukuna like amplify it, and then once he separates from it, just have like this big jujitsu sorcerer powerhouse thing like with Yuji. Yuji asks, why do you guys keep spreading misery? But Sukuna instantly uses cleave on Yuji and answers, if you ask me, why are you guys humans so weak? Why do you cling to life even though you're so weak? Sukuna says weak creatures like you guys should just chew on the misery that fits your stature of your whole life. Hearing that, Yuji is on the rage. He then says, try chewing on some misery for yourself. Yuji continues to move forward despite Sukuna slashes him off with cleave. Sukuna is intrigued. He thinks, why are you so hard? And realizes something's wrong as his fingers suddenly freeze and Yuji lands a raw punch. Then he realizes that his curse output has been declining due to Megumi. Alright, so this is crazy, a lot to break down here. So Sukuna's saying, like, you humans, quote unquote, this could point to Sukuna possibly not being a human this whole time, despite Gojo telling the audience that he was. Or maybe this means that he's just become so far from a human, like Tengen, that he is now a curse or something, or just something more than a human. Or it goes back to what Angel was alluding to with him being the disgraced one or the fallen one, meaning that he's more than just a human, and maybe him and Angel are something entirely different. But also Yuji is just eating up Cleave and Dismantle here, or one of them. He's getting cut up big time, and on the surface, this is wrecking him, but it's just slashes at this point, and I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up reverse curse technique healing from this, like it's implied that he did before. And also Megumi taking back control from Sukuna here. I mean, he hasn't completely, but this is awesome. So our boy isn't completely gone, of course, yet, and I assume this is the beginning of him taking back control, like fully. And maybe Sukuna is going to transfer himself to another person at this point. Like, I don't see why he can't just keep doing that, right? Transfer himself to a pinky and then put the pinky into somebody else. I mean, that's the easy part, I guess. It's finding a worthy vessel is the hard part. Maybe he transfers himself to Takaba or something. That would be incredible. Oh, that would be a little too broken, especially if Sukuna realized what Takaba's curse technique was, the whole bringing your imagination to life if you think it's funny or something. But yeah, that was the end of the chapter, and the big question now is like, what's going to happen? And like I said, aside from just Sukuna ditching Megumi's body, he could possibly summon Maharaga, like I talked about in my collab that I recently did with the Fake Weeb, No Operator, and Broken Ronin. Check it out if you haven't already. We also talked about Yuji possibly using Sukuna's curse techniques because Gojo said that they would like be embedded in his body eventually. So we might see Yuji start whipping out Cleave and Dismantle. But other than that, I do think there's still more potential for Sukuna using the 10 Shadows, despite Megumi like restricting his cursed energy output at the moment. But let me know what you guys think about this chapter in the comments. I'll go more into it on Sunday like I always do. But if you liked it, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.